So Pat, I think anytime you want to adjourn the meeting, we can not adjourn it, start the meeting.
Okay, we're done.
I'll do my introduction.
This is the convening of the meeting.
Convening is much more appropriate. I think, as we all know, the bathrooms are outside. We need to have the attendance sheet signed. So Dave, please sign the attendance sheet. We are on a webinar and we are being recorded. Is that correct, Todd? So if you are on the webinar, do we have anyone out there? Okay. Do we have anyone on the call out there yet? All right. So if we do, if you want to talk, your line, I believe, is muted. So you'll have to press *2, and to mute again is another *2. Public comments can be accepted either typing into the webinar or as well as unmuting your phone and getting our attention. Public comments, if you do have a public comment, we need you to use a microphone and speak into that microphone and identify who you are and the organization that you're with. Using the microphone, again, just a reminder for all board members, we need you guys to use that, as this is our public record nowadays for our board meetings, so we need a clear recording of it. And after that, I will turn it back to Pat for introductions.
You know, the board and staff has spent almost a day here together, so the only introduction we need basically is our public. Our one member of the public. Would you introduce yourself, please? And is there anybody on the webinar, on the telephone, that would like to introduce themselves? Or we would ask you to introduce yourself.
I'm Dave Magistrelli, Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity of Gallatin Valley and representing the Habitat affiliates in the state of Montana.
And for Dave's purpose, we will introduce ourselves, starting with Bob.
Bob Gochi, Montana Board of Housing member from Ronette.
Pat Melby, member of the Board of Housing from Helena.
Sheila Rice, member of the board from Great Falls.
Jeanette McKee, board member, Hamilton.
Johnny McCluskey, board member, Billings.
Eric Schindler, board member, Helena.
Amber Sunstead, board member, Billings.
Bruce Brenslow, Executive Director.
Board counsel, Greg Gould from Helena.
Ginger Fancook, board staff, Helena.
Mary Palkovich, loan servicing staff, Board of Housing.
Montana Board of Housing Homeownership Program.
That was Vicki Bauer. It's been a, yes, she is. Mary Bear, Multifamily Montana Board of Housing.
Board Counsel Nick Mazonik from Luxon and Murphy.
Nina Chu with RBC Capital Markets, Senior Underwriter to the board and from San Francisco.
Todd Jackson, Montana Board of Housing.
That being it, we'll move on to public comment on any matter that's not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the agency. That would be you, Dave. No comment. Is there anybody yet on the telephone who'd like to make a comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the prior board meeting minute, which is the meeting of June 26th. And I believe there was a telephone meeting in there as well someplace.
We have to approve them separately.
No, I think you can approve both.
Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the June 26th and the August 14th minutes as sent out.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We have here a opportunity for public comment or questions on the minutes. Is there any public comment Dave shaking his head no. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes of June 26th and August 14th board minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Board minutes have been approved. Let's move on to the finance program. Ginger.
I guess I need the microphone. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. The first thing on the agenda for the finance program is our investment policy. Once a year, the investment policy is brought before the board for approval, and you should have a copy of that in your packet. It's on number 1 behind the finance tab in your packet, and we propose that the supplied investment policy be approved for use by board staff.
Is there any board discussion or questions regarding the proposed finance policy?
There was no changes this year.
There are no changes. We have been discussing some changes in the future, but there are no changes on this particular policy.
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there further discussion by the board on the motion to approve? Is there any public comment or questions on the investment policy? Being none, we'll go ahead and have the vote. All those in favor of the motion to accept the investment policy, approve the investment policy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. You have a program update for us?
I do. As of June 30th, fiscal year end, and we are a little delayed on this because we couldn't close our books until after all of the fiscal year end information was in. So this is also the information that will be shown on our financial statements when those are issued in probably December. The first section, this is in the dashboard section, about the third page in, Accounting and Finance Dashboard. The first section of that is called the Investment Diversification. This is shows all of the different types of investments that we have and the proportion of each that we have. As you can see, 44.8% of our money is in money market. The biggest reason for that, a lot of that money is set aside for purchasing loans. We are looking into investing a little more of that is currently sitting in special reserve funds that aren't being used as much on a regular basis, so hopefully we can get it into something a little higher. The nice thing is the money market has increased a lot. Last year, in 2016, money market was only earning 0.1%, and it is now earning between 0.15 and 0.54, which helps us a lot. And you'll see that in the next section, the weighted average yield. We're finally getting back up to where we were some time ago as far as our weighted average yield. And hopefully that will continue in that upward trend. The last portion of the dashboard is the bottom section and the next page. The bottom section is the portfolio maturity by time periods. As you can see, we have $61 million available now. That is for operations, for purchasing the bridge purchasing that we're doing right now. And Vicki will go into that a little more when she does the home ownership update. The rest of them are spread out up to 20, I believe the longest is 24 years. And on the next page, it actually breaks down exactly where each one of those investments are and when it is maturing. Does anyone have any questions on the dashboard?
Are there any comments or questions from members of the public? None. Thank you, Ginger. I noticed that we have a couple other members of the public have come in. Maybe somebody could take a mic back and they can introduce themselves.
Gene Luer with GL Development in Helena.
I'm Sharon Howard. I'm a home owner.
Welcome. Thank you. Vicki, we'll move on to the homeownership program.
Good morning. So the first agenda item I have for the board today is a request. Flathead Valley Habitat for Humanities has come to the board and requested that we consider the purchase of their existing portfolio of loans. This isn't something that we've done before. Other HFAs have worked with their local Habitat affiliates and purchased their portfolios. This option would give Habitat liquidity to fund some of the programs that they've got going on. Like a lot of them are moving towards rehab of housing as opposed to just building of housing, and it would also give them some capital for purchase of land and stuff like that. So the portfolio that they brought forward to us is just under $1 million worth of loans. They are all 0% loans. The oldest loan that they're proposing to sell to us was originated in 2002, so it's about halfway through its amortization, but the majority of them were done within the last 8 years. Because we haven't done this before, I did talk to WCDA, the Wyoming Housing Development, and they have done it. And when they've purchased the Habitat portfolio, they did it at a discounted rate. They had their rate set at 82% because they are zero interest rate loans. There is some work, of course, and these loans currently are being serviced by AmeriNational. It's sub-serviced by AmeriNational. And when we spoke to AmeriNational, there is a fee associated with the transfer of servicing to another entity, and you know, whether that fee would be paid by us or by Habitat is just part of the conversation we still need to have. But we feel like buying this at a discounted price would be in the best interest of the board if we moved forward, and Bruce and I would work to determine what that discounted rate would be. Currently, when we do Habitat loans, we're originating them at a 2% interest rate, and we're financing 80% of the principal balance. And so, you know, we'll kind of use that as a bit of a basis for calculating what the discount might be. We have run it by legal, and it is within the Housing Act, or our, that we can purchase an existing portfolio from Habitat. And if we were to purchase this, we would buy these out of either single family one combined revenue or special reserve funds, because those are our non-attached funds. There's a little bit more restriction on the combined revenue than there is on the special reserve, but we would use one of those pools of funds to make this purchase. And there is sufficient money available for that purchase. And so with that, staff requests permission to proceed with the purchase of this portfolio if we determine and come to terms that Habitat is happy with and that we are happy with in our evaluation of the deal.
Well, I'd be happy to make that motion. Is this the contingent motion then, based on
what I'm suggesting is to move ahead, but is it contingent based on reaching those terms, satisfactory terms?
I think you just need to give staff the authorization to move forward, and then that's what we need.
Okay, so I will so do and make that motion.
How much are the fees that you're looking at for the transaction?
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Johnny.
How much are the fees that are associated?
So we just found out last week that there was a fee associated within that contract, and in speaking with AmeriNational, they of course weren't able to elaborate on that to us because we're not a party of that contract. So, and I didn't have a chance to reach out to Aaron at Flathead Habitat to nail down what that fee is.
Is there a standard in the market for those type of transactions?
You know, like when we buy portfolios, we do a valuation of net present value of the service fee that's, you know, being paid on those loans to determine what the purchase price of a portfolio is going to be. But when you're talking about a sub-servicing transaction as opposed to them owning the servicing rights, I think that equation is going to be a little bit different. And so as far as what it might be, I don't have a good idea. Okay.
Further discussion or questions from the board?
Vicki, will the negotiation of the purchase price be partly contingent on the performance of the portfolio on a loan-by-loan basis?
It is. That is one thing that we would look at is the performance. And at this point, Erin didn't send me the delinquency numbers. She had sent me some information, but it wasn't an overall portfolio trial balance. And with the discussion of the discount also, it is something that their board has to evaluate and agree to. And so they don't meet until later this fall. So we would be looking at a purchase that would happen after the first of the year.
I want to go on to say that I think this is a really good role for the board to play to provide liquidity to organizations like Habitat so they can continue their work.
Any further questions or discussion from the board? Any comments or discussion from the members of the public? Dave?
Yes, Dave Magistrelli again from Habitat for Humanity, Gallatin Valley. One of the issues that habitats across the state faces capitalization, the money to either purchase land, which is going up astronomically across the state, as well as the capital to be able to invest in new housing, getting material. And while we can build cheaper than anybody else with quality and energy efficiency homes, the capitalization is necessary for us to go forward. So I would support the board taking a look at this and working with it. Our affiliate has attempted to work with banks doing this, and we just do not have, I guess, enough equity in our portfolio for a bank or a commercial lender to be able to pick up our portfolio. So your consideration of this habitat as well as others that will come forward probably, if this works, would be greatly appreciated.
All right. Are there further comments or questions from members of the public? All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
MCC fee increase?
Yes. So the next item is consideration of increasing the MCC fee that the board collects on the MCCs that we issue. So the Mortgage Credit Certificate Program, or MCC as we like to call it, is a 20% tax credit certificate that enables the first-time home buyers to convert a portion of their annual interest into a direct tax credit as opposed to just being a tax deduction on their income taxes. And some banks will take it into credit into consideration when credit qualifying a borrower. We have conducted a NCSHA survey of other states to find out what kind of fees they're charging on the MCCs that they do, and they range from the $250 fee, which is what we charge, up to as much as 1% of the purchase price. A number of them settled in the middle, which was at the $500 rate that we would be we're requesting today. And so our fee structure would be, the lenders right now are able to charge a $250 fee for their processing of paperwork and files, and then we collect $250 to Board of Housing. And so we're requesting that our portion of that fee be increased to $500 to better align us with other agencies and where that fee sits with them.
Okay, is there a board discussion or questions regarding the request for the MCC fee increase?
Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the increase of the board's MCC fee to $500.
Is there a second?
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further board discussion and questions of staff? Is there any comment or questions from members of the public? Okay, guess we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Lender pool set-aside allocation.
Yes. So within our set-aside program, which is funded either with pre-Ullman funds or can be funded with like combined revenue funds, we're requesting an increase of the allocation for the lender pool set-aside. And what that is there are down payment assistance providers throughout the state that offer borrowers down payment assistance that are at an 80% of median income. Home Start is one. The Bozeman HRDC, Missoula HRDC, NeighborWorks, Dreammakers, and then we have some special programs that don't do down payment assistance but also participate in set-aside programs, being the Community Land Trust and HUD 184. Our current lender pool has a balance of just over $1 million, and so I'm requesting that we add $7 million of continued funding for that pool. The current set-aside rate is 3 1/8%. Our regular rate is 3.5%, and I anticipate that $7 million providing funding for at least the next year. And we do have adequate funds available for the allocation for this request.
Are there questions from the board or discussion from board members on this request? Are there comments or questions from members of the public? The board would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Program update.
So on the homeownership dashboard, as we went through yesterday, the current rates and how we compare to rates in the market is shown on the top part of our dashboard. Under loan programs, we received a good number of reservations during the month of August. In the 2017 Series B that we are currently bridging loans for, we received 29 reservations for just over $5 million. In that issue, we have a total of 82 loans at the end of August for $14.4 million. We were in the market for pricing that bond issue last week, and at this time I'd like to call up Mina from RBC to summarize where we were at in that pricing.
Thank you. I handed out a 2-page summary earlier. So the board issued or priced $42,600,000 worth of bonds on Thursday of this past week. It consisted of two sub-series. $11,900,000 represented AMT bonds, which refunded prior bonds of the board, 2007 Series C and D bonds, and the B2 bonds, $30,700,000, made approximately similar amount of funds available to purchase new board loans at a rate of 3.75%. All these bonds are exempt. The interest off these bonds are exempt from Montana state and federal income taxes. And if you take a look down at the bottom, the 2007 CD bonds had old mortgages of approximately 6%, 5.99, and the bond rate on the prior bonds was about 5.11. So kind of like a refinancing, we took out those bonds and replaced them with new bonds. And the new bond rate, the all-in bond yield on these combined B1 and B2 bonds were 2.96. And if you averaged out the old loan rate of 5.99 with a $30 million of new bonds, new loans at 3.75, with the weighted average loan rate came out to 4.40. So it was, we increased the spread. We structured the bonds to match the cash flow of the mortgages off the old and the new loans. So it's a 30-year maturity. And this is a copy on the right of the prospectus that was used to market the bonds. And this week we will sign off on the final official statement, and you will be receiving a copy of that. And if you take a look at the next page, we created a sales ad, and we talked about marketing before. This was sent to RBC branch managers for them to distribute to their retail accounts. We have a management syndicate, which consists of RBC, B of A Merrill Lynch, D.A. Davidson, and Piper Jaffray, and we instituted a selling group to increase retail sales here in the state of Montana. It was a very successful pricing. We timed the market very well. There's been a lot of volatility in the market, clearly some uncertainty due to the weather, whether it's Harvey or Irma, but also some uncertainty due to North Korea. That was some concerns about over the weekend, possibly some more testing or even a launch based on their anniversary. That did not happen, so the market, the Treasury yields are actually back up. So it was a perfect timing in terms of we hit the low of the market on Thursday. And as such, we were able to lower the yields on the bond series over 17 maturities between 2.5 to 5 basis points across the board, and it was a very successful sale. Yeah. And that's it.
Bruce,
Yes.
Bruce, as I recall, there's a limit on our spread. Is there something like that?
Yeah, 1 1/8. Yeah, it's not as kind of clear as that. There's a lot of tax and bond rules that come into place. Eric can give us a class on that, I think, because he did our rebate calculations back in the day. But that's about what our limit on our spread is. And just FYI too, we will be closing this in Denver, so we can kind of save a trip. Pat and I will be there so we can sign bond documents and kind of kill 2 birds. Yeah, with that trip. So.
And just to follow up on that, right here, we talk about the spread being 1.07. That's kind of the cash. But in terms of the actual yield, this bond series exceeded the allowable spread from IRS regs. So we created what's known as zeros. So about $750,000. We're going to basically use the interest income off $750,000 worth of loans to subsidize a future issuance. So this was a very successful sale.
Excellent job, Mina and Patrick. Thank you. Is there further board discussion or questions regarding the bond issue? Are there comments or questions from members of the public?
I have one question, Pat. Vicki. We're currently at 3.5. I noticed this is 3.7. Will this kick in after this 10 million is gone?
Well, I think that's kind of a weighted average rate, and we have some DPA loans that have higher interest rates than the regular rate of 3.5, and that drives up our lending rate to get us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vicki. Mary, mortgage servicing. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry.
You're not done. All right.
You're probably done listening to me after yesterday, though.
Carry on.
And so with the other programs, besides the 2017 B, you can see the reservations that came in through the month of August. MBOH Plus, which is our 0% deferred down payment assistance program, is still gaining traction in the market. We see more and more reservations come in to that program on a regular basis. This morning too, so on the second page, you can see our delinquency and foreclosure stats there, as well as the loan program comparison. And yesterday, I was able to kind of put together a longer comparison that I handed out this morning. It's on a black and white page, and it went back to 2005. And it breaks it down by insurer, also shows the dramatic changes in our production over that 12-year period. There were some questions that came up this morning with regard to, like in 2014, we kind of had a little surge of business, and we went from 305 loans purchased in 2013 to 597 in 2014, back down to 274 in 2015. And again, while Mary was talking, I was listening partially, and so I was doing some quick analysis just to be able to provide a little bit of answer. And so the majority of that business that came in 2014 and drove up our production numbers happened in the fall of 2014. And at that point, we were buying loans that had been reserved when our rate differential was about 75 basis points, 0.75% over what the market was. And then the rest of that year, we dropped down our advantage, our rate advantage in the market dropped down significantly, and we really haven't been. I would guess, because I didn't go back and look at the bond issues that we did, but if I had to guess, I'd say we probably did a pretty good size refunding at that time, and were able to get a rate on our bonds that gave us a 75 basis point spread. Most of the time these days we sit between a quarter, sometimes we push up at half, but it kind of drives home that rate really does drive our production. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know if I handed you one. So then the one other sheet I just wanted to bring to your attention that was in my handouts, other than kind of what we went over yesterday in the strategic planning part, was on an annual basis we do a fiscal year, kind of a review of the people that we're serving, the households that we're serving. It gives a breakdown of the new homes that are being purchased versus existing homes being purchased versus rehabbed homes that are being purchased, stick-built, manufactured, the average purchase price, average household size, borrower age. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention that sheet. It kind of gives you some of the demographics of the populations that the board program served in fiscal year 2017 for you to take a look at. And with that, unless there's questions, I'm done.
All right, sorry about bringing the hook early on you.
Okay, no problem.
Are there any questions or discussion matters from the board regarding the homeownership program? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All right, thank you, Vicki. Mary, if you could proceed.
Okay, thank you. Mary Palkovich, Loan Servicing Program Manager. I have some mortgage servicing portfolio statistics for you. I do like to compare our numbers from last year and last month to what we have in our most current month, which is August. And it looks like with our portfolio loans, on the total number of loans, it's been pretty even this last year. We have approximately 4,644 loans to date, and it's broken down there for you. And then we also have our principal balance has been staying fairly even. It's up a little higher from last year, about 430 billion, excuse me. And our escrows, we have approximately 5 billion in our escrow, 5 million. Sorry, my eyes can't see this. And I know, too many numbers. Lost draft loans, that is going down, and we have about 704,000. And Ryan at our loan servicing, he has been doing a great job on working with a lot of claims and getting those monies back into the borrowers' homes and getting those repaired. The loan delinquencies, 60 plus, we're staying pretty even there as well. We have 194 over 60 days past due. Actual foreclosures we had in August were 6, and I do believe we have approximately 25 in foreclosure up to the end of this year, and I would imagine maybe 8 to 12 are going to probably go to foreclosures, seems to be what our statistics are. And we have 29 to date from January to August of 2017. Our delinquent contacts to make, that has gone up a little from last month, but down quite a bit from last year. And our late fees, same, is going down a bit for the late fee income. We have our payoffs, about 33 payoffs, new loan transfers, 56. So phone payments seem to be pretty popular. They stay pretty strong. We started out in May. We had 29 phone payments in 2016, and last month we had 212 phone payments. As far as, we do have a quarterly servicing newsletter as well, and that'll be going out in September, so watch for that. And we have for loss mitigation statistics, financial packets, or for when homeowners, borrowers need some assistance and they send us some information of their finances, and we work on the loss mitigation with them and end up with either a repayment plan, forbearance, possibly a HAMP. And we have had, let's see, about 28 HAMPs are pending at this time, and we have 16 properties that we're doing some preservation inspections and watching those before they get sold. And then also bankruptcies, they did go up a bit last month. I think we had 5 or 6 that ended up deterring a foreclosure. So I see that number, I'm hoping, go down in the next couple of months. And so we remain a Tier 1 with HUD in the second quarter, I believe it says in 2016, and our goal is, of course, is to keep that Tier 1 rating. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Mary. Are there comments or discussion from members of the board regarding the mortgage servicing program? Are there comments or questions from members of the public regarding this program? All right. Thank you, Mary. We'll move on to the Executive Director.
Let's do Mary Bear.
Excuse me. We'll move on to multifamily.
It's all right, Pat.
I knew there was an error in there someplace.
So I'm Mary Bear with the Multifamily Program, Montana Board of Housing. We talked about the dashboard some yesterday. So Penny, if you would move down to the next section on the credit allocation stuff. So this was done on August 15th, so I'm going to update you a little bit on where things are. Chippewa Cree did submit their paperwork for their 8609s. Antelope Court, are we done? The last building is being finished up as we speak. Guardian Apartments are starting on the exterior using home funds. Stone Ridge Apartment, we issued the 8609s. Sweetgrass Commons has been leased. There was a grand opening on the 14th. River Ridge, there was a grand opening in June also. Big Sky Villas, Valley Villas, rehab is underway. North Star is under construction. Little John's rehab is underway. Red Fox, when I was down in Billings looking at the Heights site, they some of the buildings, thank you. Some of the buildings actually have are wrapped and they're working on siding on some of them. Freedom's Path, we squeaked in on the they got us the lease, and we were able to work with Luxon Murphy's office with Greg to get the restricted covenants recorded so that we didn't have to come in for another extension. Vista Villas, which is going to be River Run in Great Falls, is moving pretty fast. Rehab is, I think they're down to the last couple of buildings. Blackfeet, they're, I believe, working with investors now. Polson Landing, Bob was able to go up there to that groundbreaking, and I believe they're underway. Rockcrest is pretty much that right now, and Roosevelt Villas is working through the transfer with RD, and I believe have applied for both Housing Trust Fund and home money. The compliance team is almost done with their stuff for the with the site visits for the year. They those numbers are not updated. There was close to 115 properties that they had to do this year. So they have been very busy. A few of them are the ones that are left are the ones that are finishing up either new construction or rehab, and we'll have the 100% visits. And that's all that I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mary. Are there comments or questions from members of the board? Are there comments or questions from members of the public? Now we can do the Executive Director report.
Thank you, Pat. So if you go back to the very last section, it is the dashboard for kind of the operations area. So just to point out the fact that in October, unless we have to have probably a webinar meeting for any exceptions, we don't plan on having a meeting in October. We will have our allocation meeting. It'll be in Helena, November 20th. We are at the Radisson Colonial again, so that's where that's at. Then with Mary's meetings that last week in November, you're all invited for that. No meeting in December, and we'll have a webinar meeting in January where we plan to review and release the allocation plan for public comment. So just kind of get that on your calendars. Under operations, we have a new section there that updates you guys a little bit on the work that Quality Assurance has been doing, so I encourage you to take a look at that. Under the marketing section, we have some really cool pictures, which are always nice. We have the River Ridge grand opening in Missoula on June 1st. On June 14th, we have the Sweetgrass Commons opening in Missoula, and that's Pam addressing the audience there. We also, on June 15th, had the California Street Sixplex Complex in Missoula, so that was another good event. June 22nd, the Denali Townhomes Phase 1 grand opening in Billings. And then we had Voyager Apartments up in Great Falls, June 23rd, and the governor was actually at that one. So upcoming, next week got Larkspur, I know that, in Bozeman. The governor and Pam will both be at that on the 20th at 11. Yeah. In conjunction, Mako's having their whatever fall meetings in Bozeman. So annual, yeah. So if any of you guys are available and want to attend that, that'd be great. Anything else that we have booked up, or should we? That's right, Little John and Big Fork. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we got a few things coming up, and we'd love to have you all there, or if you there, whatever.
And Bruce, I was going to mention too, we're also possibly doing a Habitat key ceremony with the Helena Habitat for Humanities as well. So coming up in October.
I knew about that. I just forgot. Todd's been busy trying to get our social media presence up and going. As we talked in the last few days, that last graph just gives you a little bit of data on hits and whatnot to our Facebook website. The last section is the section for Section 8, and we went over kind of that format and that information in the last couple of days, so I won't go over the details, but take a look at your convenience. Any other logistical things? I think everything else has been covered. Any questions from the board?
Any comments or questions from members of the board for Bruce?
The one thing I probably would put on record is I really would like to thank my staff, because, you know, this was a full day of activity, and there's a lot of work that comes with it. And so thank you guys for all the time and effort that you put into getting ready and just being here. And I just think it was great. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ditto.
We had a couple members of the public come in a little late after we'd started the meeting. We always have an opportunity for comments from members of the public on any matter that's not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the board. I noticed that Karen left, but Jean, do you have anything you wanted to share with us? Could you use the mic here, please?
On Mary's comments, Antelope Court did receive their certificates of occupancy August 31st, so that one will finish mid-month here in terms of the rest of the details. The North Star Apartments in Wolf Point will get a certificate of occupancy the end of October, and I know those folks are interested in scheduling some sort of a grand opening. If so, I'm kind of putting that on the okay. And I think I know the end of this month, Bitterroot Valley Villas will be finished as well, and there's an interest there in doing a grand opening as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. With no objection, we will adjourn the meeting. Safe travels, everyone.